I said this with the defenses today. So many people overlook the fact that if you're looking for an edge at this time of the year, which everybody is, kickers and defenses are what give you that edge to give yourself an advantage over your opponent. So we're going through the top 12 week 11 fantasy kickers, and I'm one of the only fantasy YouTubers who covers kickers on a weekly basis. So make sure to go down there, drop a like on this video, and subscribe to the channel to show your support. Now, getting into our first tier, I think Chris Boswell this week against the Cincinnati Bengals feels just right to have him at number one. I mean, Chris Boswell, we know this guy, and if you're a Steelers fan like I am, this has been my favorite player on the Steelers for a long time now. Like, he is our automatic scorer that I can only rely on from a weekly basis. Chris Boswell just hit a 60-yard field goal the other night with ease. He can do this with his eyes closed. Chris Boswell, from any range, this guy's going to get you fantasy points out the wazoo because the Steelers' offense already is just getting more inefficient by the week, and they're playing the Bengals this week. I mean, this is really one of those opportunities you want to have a fantasy kicker in anyways, because at the minimum, he's going to kick about 4 extra points at minimum. At best, he'll kick 5 field goals for you. Either way, Boswell's a really good play this week. At number 2, I've got Fairbairn of the Houston Texans, and he's injured right now, so we don't know if he's playing or not, but if he does, I want him against the Tennessee Titans in Tennessee, and the reason is because he's great too. I mean, Fairbairn's averaging about 12 fantasy points per game, and his only bad game was in week 3 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So in this past week, he missed that game against the Jags, and we don't know, as of the time of this filming, whether or not he's going to be good to go for this game. But I can tell you this. This is another offense that you just want a kicker on because the Texans' offense is so inefficient. They will get you down there because they do have weapons like Nico Collins who can take the top off a defense and just continue moving the chains. They've also got a little bit of running efficiency going now that they're fully going into Woody Marks, but they will stall out. And that's going to happen against a divisional opponent this week. So if Fairbairn's back, I'm in on him entirely. And Brandon Aubrey makes tier 1 again, as I always want him to, but I do say the Cowboys' offense has been a little shaky this year from a kicking perspective. This week against the Raiders, it's kind of similar to that Chris Boswell situation against the Bengals. When you're playing a defense like the Raiders and you're coming off a bye week, I'm going to trust that your offense will be able to move the ball and get points because the Cowboys have had mostly success moving the ball anyways. Their problem has been against really good and tougher opponents. The Raiders are not one of those opponents, so I expect them to move the ball and at least get Aubrey into 60-point range, which, as we all know, if the guy is in 60-yard range, he'll make it every single time, basically. Dropping down to our next tier, Cam Dicker is at number 4, and he's going to Jacksonville to play the Jags this week. Cam Dicker, don't look now, but I have been underranking him all year, and most of you have called me out on that to your credit. This guy's the kicker number 1 in fantasy football right now. 10.4 fantasy points per game. He's missed 2 field goals, and that's it. He's kicked a 59-yard long, and he's just on an offense that you need to invest in. Like, I've been saying this for a while now in regards to the pass catchers and even Kamani Vidal in certain weeks. You want options in this matchup because they're moving the ball with ease against everybody. Herbert is playing lights out this year, and with this offensive line situation going on, I actually think it makes it better for Cam Dicker because they're going to move the ball, but what is going to happen is that on 3rd down, 3rd and 11 or something like that, or 3rd and 7, well, their offensive line is not going to hold up against better pass rushes, and so that's going to keep Cam Dicker into position to kick more field goals than extra point attempts this year. I actually believe the offensive line struggles help Cam Dicker as a kicker, so I could be completely underranking him this week, to tell you the truth. And I feel the same way about Jason Myers at the Los Angeles Rams. I could be very much underranking him. Jason Myers has been great in fantasy football, and I have not given him the credit he deserves either. He's the kicker number 2. Now, I think my thing with Jason Myers is that he's been inaccurate for a lot of his career. He's missed 4 field goals this year, hit a 56-yard long, but he has been inaccurate in a lot of spots in his career. But this bottom line is that the Seahawks offense is just one you also want to invest in. Now, the difference between him and Cam Dicker is that his team is kicking more extra points than field goals because the Seahawks offense has been so much more efficient than anybody expected. But Jason Myers against a divisional opponent this week, it is a heavyweight fight that they're going to have to keep up with because the Rams offense doesn't make many mistakes, or it could be one of those field goal heavy games to where whoever kicks the most wins. And I think that's why you've got to invest in Jason Myers in this one for sure. And I think there's a chance that at least one of these top 5 kickers is on waivers. And if not one of them, one of the rest of these guys is on waivers. If you need to get a massive kicker play this week, that's where our automatic waiver tool is. Because always what happens is you don't want to burn your priority waiver pickup on a kicker. So after the priority waiver ads run through, everybody gets up at 3 in the morning to go grab the rest of the best remaining players for free. We've automated that process so you can sleep through the night and wake up to an early text from your buddy saying, "How did you beat me on the wire?" Well, it's because you're using our tool. So you get that tool with the premium subscription. You get my top 250 rankings on a weekly basis, the league sync up feature, and the comparison feature as well. All of these things are league-winning tools at this point. And again, you've never seen the waiver wire more important than it is right now. Now, dropping down to our next tier, I've got Cairo Santos at number 6, and he's going to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. And Cairo Santos, like if you just looked at kicker rankings throughout the entirety of the season on how they've actually done, Cairo Santos is nowhere near the top because he's missed some games. But Cairo Santos is averaging 9.1 fantasy points per game, and this offense has done really well. Like his past 4 games in fantasy, 19 points, 11 points, 11 points, and 6 points. This is a defense, unlike the Giants last week where he had 6 points, that's going to stop him. The Vikings will make some stops. Their defense is very good, so I expect more field goals from them this week than I did last week against the Giants. I think Cairo Santos is in good position, and at this point, I'm just kind of in on the Bears offense in general because Ben Johnson has done tremendous work in year 1 to the point where I can expect them to get down there in position. Cam Little is at number 7, and he's taking on the Los Angeles Chargers this week in Jacksonville. So we obviously all know the size of Cam Little's leg is freaking enormous. He gets drug tested the week after he sets the new NFL record of 68-yard long field goal. But the funny thing is, the guy's not that accurate. Like, he's missed 4 field goals this year and 1 extra point. And it's not because they kicked 70-yard field goals 4 times and he missed them. That's not the reason why. He's missed anywhere from 35 to like 50 yards. He does miss, and he's not always reliable. And the Jags offense, I'm a little weary of at this point. So that's the reason I'm kind of mitigating my risk here, but I do still think they can move the ball enough against the Chargers offense to where it will put Cam Little in position to be able to score more. So I do think Cam Little still a top 10 play, but the reason he's down here a little lower is because I don't have tons of confidence in the Jags offense as a whole. Chase Mclaughlin at number 8 at Buffalo, and he's one of those guys we just kind of had to readjust expectations for. I mean, Chase Mclaughlin started out the year red hot. I mean, he had 21-point games, 16-point games, 12-point games, 17-point games over the last like 2 months. But over, in recent history, 5 points again, 17 points in between there. This guy's had a high ceiling and a low floor, which is why I still like him. Like, I do think against Buffalo, this could be a shootout. And because Buffalo's defense has been hot and cold at best, and a lot of times they haven't been good. And Tampa is in desperate need of a win to get some sort of momentum going. And also their offense is limited as far as getting, all their big weapons back. So I do think there's going to be some more stall-out drives where Chase Mclaughlin is involved. So I do think Chase Mclaughlin has a good opportunity this week, but I have to mitigate that a little bit because of the inconsistencies in his fantasy performances. And to round out this tier at number 9, Eddie Pineiro at the Arizona Cardinals. And this one, I want to see the bounce back, but I had to kind of readjust expectations because it's just so hard when you have all the injuries the 49ers have to expect the same level of consistency offensively. I mean, he's had 2 massive stinkers now. Houston in week 8 where he had 1 point, and then the Los Angeles Rams in week 10 where he had 2 points. Now, one of those, it was cheap because he actually got the kick blocked against the Rams this past week. So it may have been 1 point for you. Bottom line is this. Their offense has a lot of trouble maintaining any sort of consistency. Against the Cardinals this week, I like it better for him to have a rebound game. But again, got to mitigate the risk here because it's just been too inconsistent offensively moving the ball. Dropping down to our last tier, Harrison Butker makes it in the top 10, and he's going to Denver this week. Now, I've covered this a couple times this week. The Chiefs, and specifically Andy Reid, off the bye week is actually legendary. Like, they do not lose coming off a bye week. So I do think that regardless of what it takes, whether it's 4 field goals or 4 touchdowns, they're going to win this game. I'm leaning towards more of the field goal type of game because Denver's defense is dramatically excellent. They're unbelievable. And so I do think Harrison Butker is plenty involved. Now, he's also had lots of inaccuracy issues this year, missed 3 field goals along with 3 extra point attempts, but he does still have a 59-yard leg. And so I do think in this big of a game, this big of a spot where Kansas City needs to win, they cannot afford many more losses. I'll stick with Harrison Butker inside the top 10 in this competitive of a matchup. Chad Ryland is at 11, and he's taking on the San Francisco 49ers at home. And as I discussed with the 49ers and Eddie Pineiro, the 49ers are so inconsistent. One thing has been consistent, though, their defense cannot sustain all these injuries and still play good. Like, they are a terrible defense. You can run through them like a knife through butter. So I don't see a bad game from the Cardinals offense. I really just don't. And I know that they just had a rough day against the Seahawks, but they were still able to move the ball. I know it was garbage time. I do still think that they will be able to move the ball against the 49ers. And Chad Ryland, not been a bad fantasy kicker this year whatsoever. He's actually had several spike weeks. He's had a couple 11-point games, 12-point games, 10-point games. I think in this matchup, man, it's just too high upside because of the lack of defense that the 49ers have to offer. So I've got him in the top 12. And Tyler Loop is at 12 to round out the whole thing. Going to Cleveland this week to take on the Browns. And listen, like, their offense, it's back to what we expected it, right? With Lamar Jackson, this is an offense that's very high-powered. They're going to kick more extra points than field goals, but sometimes, and especially in a division game, I trust that to be a solid play. Because if you looked at the first time they played Cleveland, he had a 12-point game. He's also had a 14-point game last week against a really good defense, the Minnesota Vikings, and a 13-point game against the Bears. Cleveland's defense, for all their faults offensively, they have a good defense that can shut teams down. So I do think that there could be a couple field goals, but mostly touchdowns. Either way, I think the floor on Tyler Loop is really high this week. So let me know what you think of the rankings in the comments below. And if you want to see the top 12 defense rankings for this week, click on this video right here.